All right, everyone, buckle up, because today we are diving into a story that's got it all power struggles, ancient curses, and a queen whose name is basically synonymous with bad to the bone.
You know, it's interesting how a name can carry so much weight even thousands of years later.
Right, like just saying Jezebel, it's like, boom, instant villain. But was she really as wicked as her reputation suggests?
Yeah.
That's what we're here to uncover as we take a deep dive into the fascinating world.
Of Jezebel.
Yes. Using, of course, that incredible online encyclopedia article on Jezebel you sent over.
Absolutely. So let's set the stage. The story unfolds in ancient Israel, a kingdom full of political intrigue and religious tension. It's a time period ripe for some serious drama, and that's where Jezebel enters the picture.
Yeah, and she doesn't just enter, she bursts onto the scene, right? The Book of Kings introduces her as this Phoenician princess, daughter of King Ethbaal, the first of Tyre, who becomes the wife of King Ahab of Israel. Now, to my untrained ear, that doesn't exactly sound like a recipe for smooth sailing.
You're picking up what I'm putting down. This wasn't just any marriage. It was a major political alliance, but one that brought the worship of Yahweh, the God of Israel, into direct conflict with the worship of Baal and Asherah, who were prominent deities in Phoenician culture.
Ah, so we've got a culture clash brewing. And I'm sensing Jezebel wasn't exactly shy about promoting her own beliefs.
You could say that. The Book of Kings paints her as a fierce advocate for her gods, much to the dismay of the prophets of Yahweh, like the famous Elijah. This clash of faiths culminates in that epic showdown on Mount Carmel. You know, the one where Elijah basically calls out the prophets of Baal to a divine duel?
Wait, seriously? Like a holy throwdown?
Oh yeah, whoever's God could summon fire from the heavens wins. Talk about high stakes.
Okay, now that's a story that must have people buzzing back in the day. So what happened? Did everyone suddenly convert to Baal?
Not quite. The way the story goes, Elijah emerges victorious. But it's super important to remember that the Book of Kings has a clear perspective. It's meant to show the consequences of straying from the path of Yahweh. And Jezebel, in this context, she becomes a symbol of those consequences.
Which makes me think of another story. The one with Naboth and his vineyard. You know, Ahab wants it. Naboth's like, nope, not happening. And then Jezebel steps in and, well, let's just say she handles it.
That's one way to put it. This incident, whether or not it went down exactly as described, really highlights the brutal realities of power back then. Jezebel's methods, which might have been influenced by her Phoenician upbringing, definitely wouldn't have sat well with everyone in Israel.
It's all starting to sound like a historical thriller, a clash of cultures, a battle of the gods, and a queen who is as cunning as she was ruthless. But how much of this is the real Jezebel, and how much is shaped by the people writing about her?
Now that's the million-dollar question.
It's like we're trying to piece together a puzzle, right? Where some of the pieces are missing and others might have been, creatively interpreted over time.
Right. And we have to be really careful about taking the Book of Kings as the be-all and end-all. It definitely doesn't hold back on the drama when describing her downfall.
No kidding. Okay, so Ahab meets his end in battle. Then what?
Well, then his sons, Ahaziah and Jehoram, try their hand at ruling.
Keyword, try.
Exactly. It's a pretty tumultuous period.
Yeah.
Let's just say things don't end well for the house of Ahab.
Enter Jehu, stage, left, right. He's the general who leads a coup, and he's not exactly known for his forgiving nature.
Jehu was all about tying up loose ends, especially when it came to Ahab's heirs.
And, of course, this brings us to Jezebel's grand finale, which is, well, it's something else.
It's definitely a scene that sticks with you, the way the Book of Kings tells it. She's facing her downfall, and what does she do? Decides to go out in style. Dresses in her finest clothes, paints her face, and stares down at Jehu from her palace window.
Talk about making an exit. I always thought that was kind of a power move, though some scholars say it wasn't just about vanity.
Oh, absolutely. It's a really powerful image when you think about it. This wasn't just about putting on a brave face. This was a queen asserting her authority, even in the face of inevitable defeat.
Makes you wonder what was going through her head at that moment.
Right. Like, what would it take to have that level of defiance?
It's a powerful image, but then comes the not-so-pretty part.
Yeah. The Book of Kings doesn't sugarcoat it. Jehu orders her death, and it's pretty brutal. Thrown from a window, trampled by horses, and to really drive home the point, her body is left to be devoured by dogs, just as Elijah had prophesied.
Gruesome. It's a stark reminder that history is often written by the victors, and in this case, through the lens of those who were promoting a very specific belief system.
Absolutely. Which is why it's so crucial to look at these accounts with a critical eye.
We've journeyed through the palaces and battlefields of ancient Israel, witnessed firsthand the drama and intrigue that surrounded Jezebel.
But we've also started to see how those stories, those interpretations can evolve over time.
Yeah, it's like realizing that history isn't always as black and white as we might think.
And that sometimes our heroes have flaws and our villains, well, they might have been a little more complex than the stories make them seem.
And when it comes to complex figures, Jezebel is like Exhibit A. I mean, her name alone, it's become synonymous with, well, wickedness.
And that's exactly what makes her story so fascinating and relevant, because it highlights how these historical interpretations, especially those about women, can be used to reinforce existing power structures.
Okay, so you're saying there's more to Jezebel than just being wicked. Tell me more.
Think about it. Throughout history, the name Jezebel has been used to discredit women who challenge the status quo, women who are deemed too powerful, too ambitious, or too independent.
Wow, so it's like she became the archetype of the dangerous woman.
Exactly. And that archetype has been used to silence women for centuries.
Hmm.
Take Isabella of Angoulême, for example, Queen Consort of England back in the 13th century.
I vaguely remember her from history class. Wasn't she considered a bit of a power player?
Oh, totally. And guess what? Chroniclers at the time compared her to Jezebel.
Mm.
They used that association to undermine her authority and influence.
Wow. It's like history repeating itself. And we're still grappling with these same dynamics today.
It's wild, isn't it? That a figure from thousands of years ago can still have such a powerful hold on our cultural imagination.
So how do we break free from these outdated narratives? How do we look at someone like Jezebel and see beyond the label?
I think it starts with recognizing that history is always being written and rewritten. It's about asking critical questions, challenging assumptions, and considering multiple perspectives.
It's about remembering that people aren't just heroes or villains. They're complex individuals shaped by their time and their experiences.
Exactly. And when we approach history with that kind of nuance, we open ourselves up to a much richer and more meaningful understanding of the past.
And maybe even learn a thing or two about ourselves in the process. Well, there you have it, Jezebel. A queen, a villain, an enigma. But most importantly, a reminder that history is never simple, and there's always more to the story than meets the eye. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and until next time, happy exploring.